The ancients did not see the soul as a singular thread moving linearly through time, but as a radiant weave of light, constantly moving across unseen layers of reality. In cultures scattered across continents, from the Egyptian mystics of the Nile to the Vedic sages of India and the Toltec seers of Mesoamerica, there existed a shared understanding. The soul was eternal, multifaceted, and capable of transcending not just death but dimensions themselves. Ancient texts and oral traditions whispered of mirrored realms, worlds that coexist with ours, veiled only by perception and vibration. They spoke of the etheric body, the astral double, and the ka, or subtle form that moves freely across the veils. To the uninitiated, these were myths. To the initiated, these were maps. In the temples of Luxor and Karnak, inscriptions depicted the Ba and Ka interacting with other realms, receiving wisdom and passing through tests in luminous corridors. These were not just metaphors for the afterlife. They were esoteric diagrams for consciousness navigation. The priesthood was trained to separate awareness from the physical shell and walk the dreamlike corridors of alternate realities. The concept of multiple dimensions is not new. The Vedas describe loka after loka, subtle planes where souls dwell, learn, and evolve. The Upanishads speak of the soul's ability to move across these planes based on its vibrational signature. In Tibet, the Bardo Thodol, the so-called Tibetan Book of the Dead, guides the soul through intermediary states between life and rebirth, with specific instructions to recognize and merge with these parallel realities. The Mayans believed in Xibalba, a multi-dimensional underworld not as a place of torment but a testing ground for transformation. Shamans would drink sacred brews and journey into these realms to retrieve fragmented parts of the soul or gain guidance. Their caves and temples were not just ceremonial spaces but portals. Each culture described the same truth in different language, that the soul is a traveler, that reality is a layered dream, that with discipline, intention, and spiritual activation, one could traverse the hidden architectures of the universe. Modern quantum physics only now grazes what these ancient mystics knew. The theory of parallel universes, multiverses, and quantum entanglement all echo what the ancients encoded in myth and stone. Where science speaks of probability fields, the mystics spoke of timelines. Where physicists explore superposition, the seers navigated infinite soul reflections. In Egyptian cosmology, the duat was a liminal space, half spirit, half matter, where souls passed through 12 gates of inner initiation. These were not merely post-mortem events, but could be consciously activated in trance states. Hieroglyphs show the soul escorted by guides facing mirrored versions of itself, each demanding understanding and surrender. Initiates across traditions understood that trauma, unawareness, and karmic weight limited the soul to a narrow stream of reality. But healing, initiation, and gnosis allowed the soul to expand its awareness and choose alternative outcomes. Not just in this life, but in the folds of parallel dimensions. These journeys were not fantasies. They were precise spiritual technologies. Fasting, chanting, sacred geometry, light activation, and altered states of consciousness were tools used to modulate the vibrational frequency of the soul and initiate travel. Even Plato spoke of the world of forms, perfect blueprints that exist outside our limited material perception. The soul, he said, originates from these realms and temporarily inhabits the body to learn, but often forgets its divine origin. Indigenous tribes worldwide tell of ancestors that walk the wind or dwell in mirrored worlds. Their drum rituals, songs, and symbols are encoded algorithms for portal access. They speak of soul fragments lost in other dimensions, and the sacred duty of retrieval for wholeness. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without, is not just philosophical poetry. It is literal metaphysics. What we carry inside reflects and refracts across the infinite mirrors of the multiverse. Every choice births a new timeline, every emotion a frequency signature. Meditation, dreams, near-death experiences, and shamanic journeys are windows into this greater topology. They show that our current life is but one thread of a much larger soul tapestry, woven through dimensions by the loom of consciousness. The Akashic field, described in Theosophy and echoed in the Vedas as Akasha, is the cosmic memory bank, the all-field that stores every thought, word, and deed. The soul, when attuned, can access this field and choose the most aligned dimension of itself. The journey is not always easy. It requires ego death, the shedding of false identities, and surrender to the higher intelligence of the soul. But those who do report miraculous clarity, healing, and purpose, as if a fog had lifted from their inner sight. Children sometimes speak of other lives or different versions of their parents. People in deep meditative or psychedelic states report witnessing themselves living entirely different lives in alternate but simultaneous realities. These are not hallucinations. They are bleed-throughs, sacred symbols like the Eye of Horus, the Flower of Life, the Ouroboros, and the Sri Yantra are not decorative. They are interdimensional maps, encoding the fractal nature of reality and the soul's recursive journey through light and shadow. Ultimately, the journey through parallel dimensions is not an escape from this world, but a return to true vision. The ancients did not seek to abandon life, but to illuminate it with the awareness of the infinite. To walk this path requires devotion, discernment, and a deep willingness to see beyond appearances. But once seen, the veil never fully returns. The soul becomes luminous, multi-anchored, and sovereign in its exploration. You are not just the result of one past or one path. You are a traveler, a navigator, a conscious strand of divine awareness, unfolding across infinite mirrors of existence. And the ancients left clues everywhere, not to trap you in myth, but to free you through memory. When we talk about parallel dimensions, we are not describing physical places you can fly to. These are vibrational spaces, energetic octaves layered within the same moment. Like radio stations playing on different frequencies, they all exist simultaneously. And what you experience depends entirely on what you're tuned to. The ancients knew this. They didn't build spaceships. They built inner temples. Because the true journey is inward and vibration is the map. The soul is not static. It doesn't sit inside the body waiting to escape after death. It is dynamic, fluid, and always moving. It shifts with every thought you think, every emotion you hold, every breath you offer with awareness. This is not metaphor, it's energetic physics. You are not in one world. You are moving through infinite overlays of worlds from moment to moment. What separates you from other versions of yourself is coherence. The version of you who lives in fear occupies a different field than the version of you who moves with trust. The vibration you hold determines the dimension you occupy. This is not philosophy. It is function. And when you understand that, life stops being a mystery and becomes a canvas. Ancient Egyptian initiates trained to move through the gates of the duat, not just in death but in life. They were taught how to shift their awareness through vibration, to travel between states of being. The 12 gates were not places. They were conditions of the soul. Each gate represented a trial, of truth, of fear, of identity. Passing through meant not surviving, but transforming. The Toltec seers practiced the same idea. Their concept of dreaming was not just sleep. It was conscious navigation of energetic layers. They developed the double, an energy body they could project into other realms. These weren't fantasies. They were repeatable experiences. They mapped the soul's movement through layers of reality. In Vedic philosophy, the soul travels through the lokas, dimensions of form, light, thought, bliss. But these realms aren't reached after death. They are accessible through purity, devotion, and frequency. Your inner state is the password, and the keys aren't held by gods. They're built into your nervous system. The pineal gland, often called the seat of the soul, is not a metaphor. It's a sensory antenna for multidimensional awareness. In ancient temples, light, sound, and geometry were all used to activate it. Why? Because they understood the body as the bridge, not something to escape, but something to awaken. Modern people chase altered states through substances, but the ancients used silence, breath, intention, and rhythm. They understood that consciousness expands not through escape, but through precision. You don't need to fly to another star system. You need to learn how to be exactly here without distortion. Distortion is what traps the soul in lower realities. Shame, fear, unresolved trauma. They act as anchors, not because they're evil, but because they freeze vibration, and frozen vibration cannot shift. Healing is not just emotional, it's dimensional liberation. Every time you forgive, you free energy. Every time you speak truth, you align with a higher plane. Every parallel version of you exists now. The you who said yes instead of no. The you who chose joy instead of pain. These aren't fantasies. They're real trajectories, and you can learn to draw wisdom from them. The ancients practiced this as soul integration, retrieving strength, clarity, or memory from other lifelines. Shamans speak of soul parts being stuck in past or parallel realities. Their task is to journey into the layers, find the lost part, and bring it home. This is not metaphor. It's vibrational reclamation. You are not incomplete, but you are spread. And your work is to call yourself back into wholeness. Sacred geometry was more than symbol. It was architecture for energy. The flower of life, Metatron's cube, the Sri Yantra. These are not art. They are blueprints for multidimensional alignment. When meditated upon, they vibrate. When drawn with presence, they awaken memory. They are visual passwords to deeper space. Language fails in describing these things. That's why the ancients used sound and symbol. Sound speaks where words end. A single tone held in presence can shift your entire field. That's why temples echoed with chants. That's why silence was sacred, not as absence, but as the field where truth returns. When you become still enough, you feel it, the vibrational threads that weave reality. You sense that time is soft. You feel your breath in other lives. You begin to remember choices you didn't make in this body. Not as imagination, but as echo. And in that echo, guidance appears. You don't need to believe in this. You already live it. Every intuitive moment, every déjà vu, every dream that felt more real than waking life. These are the touch points of a multidimensional self. You are not broken. You are layered. And the more you learn to listen, the more you unify. Ancient initiates were not holy in the way we think. They were disciplined. They trained their minds to become still, their hearts to become clean, their bodies to become vessels. And in that clarity they traveled, through time, through selves, through dimensions. The goal was never escape. It was embodiment. The higher self is not up there. It is the you that already exists in full alignment. And it's accessible, not through effort, but through surrender, through clearing distortion, through choosing love when fear seduces. You are the traveler, the temple, the key, the door. You have walked this before, and now you are remembering. Not by running from this world, but by becoming fully present in it. There is a sacred moment that happens when the soul realizes it is not trapped by the story it's currently living, that what seems like fate is often just resonance. The ancient masters knew this. They taught that by changing your vibration, not your environment, you change the version of the world you occupy. The world outside is not the cause, it is the result, and once this is understood, true freedom begins. Your thoughts are not simply noise in your head. They are instructions. Each one is a frequency, and every sustained frequency begins to rewrite the script around you. This is why ancient traditions emphasized not just positive thinking, but purified thinking. Thought that comes not from fear or ego, but from aligned intention. The soul is not confined to a single narrative. What you call you is only one mask. Beneath that mask is the infinite actor, playing across dimensions simultaneously. In one life, you are the teacher. In another, the student. In one thread, you fell. In another, you soared. And none of these versions are more real than the one you're living now. They are all facets of one awareness. But here's the secret. They are not isolated. You are not cut off from these other selves. In fact, they influence you all the time. Through emotion, memory, instinct. That sudden wave of courage when you needed it most. Perhaps it came from a version of you who never doubted. That feeling of déjà vu when walking into a new place. Maybe your other self has been there. In the mystery schools of Egypt, initiates were taught to contact these reflections. The mirrors found in temples were not for vanity. They were tools, polished obsidian, water bowls, reflective stone, all used for scrying into the layers of the self. They didn't seek gods in the sky. They sought versions of themselves beyond time. The Druids, too, understood this. Their groves were planted in spirals not for beauty but to generate resonance. Trees conduct energy. And in sacred spirals, the field of space bends. In ceremony, they walked these spirals while chanting, syncing their bodies with Earth's vibration and aligning their soul with the eternal now, where all timelines converge. It was never about escape. It was about integration. The modern world misunderstands the ancient one. We assume they were obsessed with death because of their tombs, their rituals, their afterlife myths, but they were obsessed with continuity. The understanding that death is not an end, but a transition between states, a veil shift, and they prepared not for oblivion but for clarity. There is no beginning and no end to the soul's journey, only thresholds, and each threshold can be crossed consciously. In deep meditation, with the right rhythm and focus, the breath becomes a bridge. Your awareness expands. You feel yourself as more than a body. You begin to hear, see, or feel realities that overlap this one, layered like light through a prism. Some people fear these moments. They label them hallucinations or illusions. But the ancients would say you're seeing more, not less. The filters are dissolving. The soul is remembering its wings. The Atlanteans in their final days encoded this knowledge in crystals and sound structures. They knew their civilization would collapse physically, but survive energetically. And so they built resonance devices, temples of tone and geometry, to preserve the vibration of what they had learned. Many believe these technologies still exist, not to be dug up, but tuned into. Your dreams are not fantasies, they are test flights. In sleep, your ego loosens its grip and your soul drifts, visiting, retrieving, preparing. Some dreams are lessons, others are messages. Some are fragments of your other selves bleeding through because the veil is thinning. Have you ever woken up with a feeling that lingered even though you couldn't place it? A sadness that wasn't yours, a joy from nowhere? These are emotional echoes from your parallel paths. And as you become more attuned, you can begin to dialogue with them. How? Through intention, through stillness, through asking, sit in silence. Breathe. Then ask, show me what I need to remember from my other selves. Do not demand. Listen. The response may come as images, thoughts, or sensations. The key is not to analyze, but to trust. Not all dimensions are higher. Some are dense, chaotic, fragmented. But even those contain keys. Every version of you holds something sacred, even the broken ones, especially the broken ones, because they carry the weight that you in this life chose not to bear. And when you send love to those parts, across time, across dimension, you begin to reclaim power. This is the true meaning of shadow work, not just confronting trauma from your past, but integrating fragments from your whole field. You are not just healing the inner child, you are healing the inner selves. And as you do, your timeline shifts. Subtle at first, then unmistakably. The external begins to morph. People respond to you differently. Opportunities appear. Resistance dissolves. Not because magic happened, but because you aligned your vibration with a new version of reality. And the field, like a mirror, reflected back the version of you who made the choice. This is not a theory. It's an ancient mechanism. The field is responsive, and your soul is a master navigator when you stop trying to control and start remembering. Remembering what? That you have been here before, that you are here now, that you are there too, all of you, across space and possibility, converging in this breath. Now, the more you open to the truth of your multidimensional nature, the more you begin to feel that time is not something outside of you, but something generated by your awareness. Time is not linear. It is layered. The ancients knew this long before clocks and calendars. They measured cycles by the movement of stars, but they navigated reality through states of being. A single moment of presence can stretch into eternity. A single breath, when conscious, can access lifetimes. The soul doesn't care how many years you've lived. It cares how awake you are now. Because now is the only portal. Now is the nexus where all versions of you intersect. This is why sacred rituals always emphasize stillness, silence, and attention. These are not passive acts. They are dynamic interfaces with the field. When you quiet the mind, the deeper layers begin to speak, not in language but in symbols, sensations, and insights. Many ancient temples were constructed not only for worship but for resonance. Chambers were designed to amplify sound, geometry to direct energy, corridors to guide awareness. These structures weren't just places. They were instruments. And the initiate was the player. Initiates would spend days in darkness fasting, listening to the pulse of their own soul. In this deep silence, the veils between realities would thin. They would hear the echoes of other lives, feel the vibrations of their higher self, and even glimpse alternate timelines like reflections in still water. Some would emerge changed, not because they learned something new, but because they remembered something eternal. Initiation was not information. It was alignment. In modern times, we've forgotten the value of silence. Our minds are addicted to input, distraction, noise. But the soul thrives in the space between. It speaks not in urgency, but in subtlety. And unless you slow down, you will miss the doorway. The ancients called this doorway the heart of the mystery. Not because it is hidden, but because it is intimate. The mystery is not far away. It is inside you, vibrating just beneath the surface of your thoughts. Your breath is the guide. Conscious breathing regulates not just your body, but your energetic field. With each breath, you send a message into the field. I am present. I am listening. I am ready. And the field responds. The Akashic memory does not unfold through effort. It unfolds through resonance. When your vibration aligns with a certain memory or possibility, it reveals itself. Not as a story, but as a knowing. You suddenly understand something you never studied. You remember a lesson you never lived, because part of you already has. In indigenous traditions, it is said that the earth dreams through us. That we are dreamers inside the dream of Gaia, and in lucid states we can co-create with her. Shape the dream consciously, but only when we are fully rooted, only when we are fully here. Multidimensionality does not mean escaping this life. It means deepening into it, bringing the wisdom of other realms into this body, this choice, this action. The soul's journey is not vertical. It is spiral. It circles in again and again, each time with more awareness. Some mystics describe the feeling of stepping sideways into another self. They report sudden shifts in perception. Colors brightening, sounds stretching, time slowing. Not drug-induced, but breath-induced, awareness-induced. These are moments when the walls between timelines thin. What causes this thinning? Usually love, sometimes pain, always presence. The soul is not trying to leave this world, it is trying to fully enter it, but it can only do so when the vessel is clean, when the noise subsides, when the heart is clear. This is why purification was central to ancient practice, not moral purity but vibrational coherence. Clean energy conducts more light, it carries more memory, it transmits more truth. Your choices matter, not because they are judged, but because they define your signature. Each act shapes the vibration you emit, and that vibration determines which version of the world you experience. The great lie is that you are stuck. You are never stuck. You are just tuned to a reality that mirrors your internal state. Change the signal and the mirror changes. But not through force, through frequency. When you live from your soul, you begin to walk differently. You speak with less noise. You move with more clarity. People feel it. Even if they don't understand it, they recognize it. Truth doesn't need explanation. It carries a vibration that cannot be denied. Your other selves, the ones who chose differently, are not rivals. They are allies. They hold keys, codes, insights. And when you meet them in dream, meditation, or vision, you are retrieving lost fragments, not to become someone else, but to become whole. The journey is not linear. It's not even circular. It's holographic. You are the center, and all versions extend from you like light through a prism. Each angle reveals something new, but the source is the same. You are not here to escape the matrix. You are here to master it. And mastery comes through presence, intention, and vibration. The ancients left us maps, not in words, but in symbols, not in rules, but in resonance. And they echo now, in your breath, your blood, your intuition. You don't need to find the path. You are the path. The deeper you walk this inner path, the more you begin to notice. Reality responds differently. It's not louder or faster. It becomes more fluid, more intelligent. Synchronicities align not just occasionally, but rhythmically. You think something, and it arrives. You release something, and it dissolves. These are not coincidences. They are signals that your field is becoming coherent with a higher version of your life. There's a point on the soul's journey when external validation fades. You stop needing signs from the outside because the confirmation arises within. Peace becomes your compass. Alignment becomes your yes. Distortion feels unbearable, not because it is wrong, but because it no longer fits. The old vibration simply can't carry you anymore. Ancient teachings warned of this stage, the sacred disorientation. When the soul begins to ascend into new bandwidths of awareness, the personality feels displaced. You may feel lost, detached, even disembodied. But this is not failure. This is transition. The veil between dimensions grows thin not in moments of clarity, but in moments of surrender. The Mayan priests taught that time was a spiral, and that every return to a similar moment was actually a climb to a higher ring of the same experience. They believed that each time we revisited a wound, it was not a failure to heal it, but an invitation to approach it with more light, more self. You begin to understand that healing is dimensional. A pain unresolved in one lifetime may echo across 10 others. When you feel a deep grief that makes no sense, when you mourn something you've never known, perhaps that memory belongs to another version of you. And when you breathe into it with love, that version is freed. You are not healing alone. You are liberating threads across time. The soul is not bound by now. It pulses through all your lives at once. And when one thread is made whole, the entire web is strengthened. The mystery schools taught this through ritual. The initiate would act out symbolic death, descending into the underworld, passing through gates, meeting guardians. But what was really happening? They were shifting states. Layer by layer, they shed what was not eternal, ego, identity, assumptions, until only the soul remained, naked, aware, unbound. In that place, visions came not from fantasy, but from frequency. Memories of other lives emerged, futures glimpsed, lessons absorbed in seconds that would have taken lifetimes in the outer world. And when the initiate returned, they were not just wiser. They were changed. Their field carried more light. Their words held more resonance. Today, those gates still exist, not carved in stone, but encoded in your DNA. Every inner initiation, heartbreak, awakening, breakthrough, unlocks another level of remembrance. The more you walk the path of integrity, the more the old programs collapse. The soul doesn't want perfection. It wants honesty, embodiment, willingness. To control energy is not to manipulate, it is to harmonize. You become aware of your inner noise and you soften it. You stop leaking your power in resentment, self-doubt, projection. You begin to hold your energy with respect, as sacred currency. The soul speaks in energy. It doesn't use words. It uses rhythm, pressure, vibration. When you are off path, you feel it in your body, tension, exhaustion, numbness. When you're aligned, you feel spacious, creative, grounded. You begin to trust these signals more than logic. The ancients left diagrams of this, chakras, meridians, breath cycles. These weren't concepts, they were living systems, inner maps to navigate the outer world. You are not meant to survive this life by chance. You are meant to sculpt it through resonance. Parallel dimensions don't just contain alternate events. They hold different versions of you, and when you shift your frequency, you step into the life that version already lives. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The tuning fork doesn't try to resonate, it just does when the note is right. You're tuning yourself every moment. What you focus on becomes your song. What you believe becomes your key. If you dwell in shame, you tune to realities that reflect it. If you anchor in gratitude, your path unfolds with light. Your other selves are watching, not in judgment, in support. They are allies, witnesses. Sometimes they lend energy. Sometimes they pull you forward. The field is full of them. But they respond to clarity, to focus, to intention. They meet you at your center. This is why stillness is power, why solitude isn't emptiness but presence. In the quiet, your multidimensionality awakens. You begin to feel not just more alive, but more here, fully present in more than one direction. The body is your anchor. It is not a limitation. It is the portal. Treat it well. Cleanse it. Breathe into it. Let it teach you. The soul doesn't bypass the body unknown. It moves through it. The journey is not to leave this world. It is to illuminate it with all the awareness you've retrieved from everywhere you've ever been. You are not becoming. You are unveiling. You are not traveling. You are remembering. The moment arrives when the soul no longer asks, "Who am I?" but instead whispers, "I remember." This shift is not intellectual. It is vibrational. It does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives in silence, in the still certainty that you are not lost, you are not behind, and you are not alone. You are one of many lights reflecting through one eternal presence. You begin to live with a different posture, not physically but energetically. You move not from reaction but from rhythm. You feel the pulse of deeper truths underneath ordinary moments. A conversation becomes sacred. A breath becomes a portal. A pause becomes an offering. The soul no longer chases signs, it becomes one. You become the anchor point where dimensions intersect. You wake not just into this day, but into this timeline, chosen deliberately. And you begin to walk as if reality listens to you, because it does. The ancients lived in reverence not out of fear, but because they knew everything was conscious. The rock had memory. The wind carried voices, the stars were witnesses, and when they performed rituals, they weren't pleading. They were aligning, not asking to be saved, but resonating with what they already were. In your modern language, these truths are returning. Quantum fields, non-locality, fractals, entanglement. Science is slowly translating what mystics have always seen. The world is not a place, it is a frequency, and you are the tuning fork. Every time you choose stillness over panic, compassion over judgment, creation over fear, you are shifting. You are not fixing the world. You are revealing the one already woven within it. You are collapsing one timeline and stepping into another, not by effort, but by coherence. The ancients would say, "This is the great remembering, when the soul returns to itself and sees its full body across time. When the dreamer wakes up, not from the dream but within it, conscious, lucid, loving. You feel less need to convince, to prove, to resist. Because truth speaks louder through presence than argument. Your life becomes your message. Your frequency becomes your transmission. And those who are ready will feel it. You begin to create not just from will, but from alignment. You stop pushing energy and start allowing it. You begin to design your reality from the inside out, like an architect who doesn't force the materials but channels the blueprint. You are not special for knowing this. You are responsible. This awareness is not for status. It is for service. Because once you remember who you are, the only thing left is to become it, fully, boldly, quietly. You will still have pain. You will still forget. You will still fall. But now you know. You are falling through layers of self into deeper truth. And every time you rise across lifetimes. The veil is not gone, but it is thinner. You walk now with the awareness that every breath echoes, every thought constructs, every act reshapes the field. This is what the ancients taught. Not superstition, but stewardship. Not worship, but awareness. The sacred is not distant. It is right here, woven into your skin, vibrating through your voice, reflecting in your eyes. You no longer need to find the doorway. You are the doorway, and when you speak, the field listens. When you breathe, dimensions bend. When you love, timelines heal. You are the echo of all you've ever been, and the seed of all you are yet to become. You are not one life. You are life itself, dreaming in parallel, remembering through layers, awakening now, fully, here, and finally, home.